When we think about the hip flexors, it's usually in the context of them being too tight because we're always sitting and they shorten up and they become inactive. And that's true, and it definitely is something that needs to be addressed in a lot of people. I definitely think that stretching your hip flexors is a great idea for the majority of folks out there. But one thing that's often overlooked is actually the ability to flex your hips into deep hip flexion too. You know, especially in the context of squatting or any other kind of hamstring stretching, or if you have some kind of back pain, the hip flexors are often very weak in the shortened range as well as tight in that extended position. So they really are kind of a bugaboo when it comes to a muscular group right around your hip. They usually affect your knee pain and back pain and just your ability to run and jump with full extension and full loading, because the more you can flex your hips, you know, let's say in a squat or a jump comfortably, the more you can get out of your glutes, which is one of the largest muscles in your body. So super important to have good hip flexion. And here's a couple of examples of where it's important, and also we can talk about how to work on it as well.
So with the squat as an example, the most common cue that I really like to make sure to hammer home is to lift with your hips. So you have to flex right at this bottom position here. You have to flex your hips with intent to pull yourself down, keep your back neutral and upright, and then squeeze with your glutes to come back to the top. And that's how you squat with your hip strength. And when you jump, the lower you can load right before you take off, the more you can use your glutes to really extend and get a full jump out of it. Here's McGuire dunks showing a real good example of how to load, plant hard, and then squeeze his glutes and pop his head all the way up to the rim.
Like most cases of improving flexibility, you have to consider both sides of the joint. So not only do we need to strengthen our actual hip flexors in the shortened position, but we also need to lengthen the muscles that prevent us from getting deeper hip flexion, which is primarily the glute and the hamstring.
So here's how to train your hip flexor, your psoas in particular. As long as you're above 90 degrees when you're at max tension, you're going to build strength in that shortened position, which is obviously where we're going to be the weakest. And then you might even get some cramping in this area. Just shake it out and reset. But building strength in this shortened position is really going to help with your flexibility and just being able to load better in general. And then on the flip side, here's what's called the elephant walk. This is a great way to teach you how to squeeze your hip flexor in that shortened range just like before, but also squeeze your quad in the shortened range, and that'll help you in turn lengthen the hamstring just by the fact that you are strengthening the antagonist muscle in the shortened position. So it really is a two-sided equation when it comes to flexibility. You have to be strong in the short range of one side, which then lengthens the other side. So nice little 1-2 punch here. And then the last area to think about is to hit your weighted pigeon right here. That'll really hit the glute, get that nice and stretched out. Same thing the piriformis. And you can also work on internal rotation, which would be a different stretch than this, but I think that this particular stretch is extremely valuable and one of our staples in our program. So this is from a form clip within our program just to show you an example of what that looks like. We really try to go in depth to hit every range of motion that you want to be capable of in your hips. And that pretty much concludes this video. So if you liked it, please mention a comment or like the video, and we're happy to make more in the future.